In this video, I'll show you how to overcome a blank canvas syndrome that every single web designer has faced at some point in their web design career and how to get infinite ideas for your project. But before we jump into that, I want to let you know that the page for my program Future-Proof Web Designer is live. So if you'd like to design senior level projects that will attract high-ticket clients in only 3 months by working with me, you can now get all the info on the first link in the description. So what is the main reason for having that blank canvas block, that blank canvas syndrome? Maybe it's something in your head. Maybe you're stuck because there is something new, you get scared, and then you feel overwhelmed because you know that you haven't designed a website like that. Or maybe you have so many ideas and you get overwhelmed by having so many ideas that you cannot decide what idea to choose. Or maybe you don't have enough confidence in your web design skills and again, you get scared and stuck. But I believe that it's neither of those. I believe that you simply don't have clarity on the project that you are designing. Even more important, you don't have a system that will give you that clarity on literally any project. And that is the key for breaking every single creative block, or in this case, blank canvas block. This is like building a house, but not knowing who's it for. How many stories do you need? What colors would you like the walls to be? Would you like a gym in your backyard, or maybe a pool, or maybe both? How many people are you building that house for? Etc, 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 whatever goes into building one house. So the first thing, step 0, that I would like you to think of is, what am I actually designing? And what is expected from me to design? That is the most basic question that you can answer. Maybe you're designing a website for some local coffee shop, but what is expected from you? 4 pages, 5 pages, 3 pages, 1 page. So let's say you're designing only a homepage. What sections do you need for that homepage? You need hero section, maybe you need a location section so people know where to find that coffee shop. You need menu section, some testimonials maybe, featured drinks, maybe some small shop section for people who would like to buy coffee from that coffee shop, call to action, footer, let's say that's it. And if you have copy, let's say you have final copy or some version of that copy, we can go on to step number 1, and that is layout. Layouts or wireframes are actually the way you distribute everything that is in your copy. It doesn't really have to be anything spectacular, but try to do that without having any inspiration. Try to get as many ideas as you can from yourself without looking at anything that someone else has already designed. Let's try to jumpstart the engine that you have, but you have simply blocked it, and let's have as many ideas as we can from the copy that you have. Layouts are literally that. So let's say we have a title, body text, maybe some buttons, and an image. How many different ways can you think of, or how many different ideas can you think of, and in how many different ways this layout or a wireframe can go that you can think of? So let's start. Let's use desktop frame and let's use some really simple and standard grid, maybe 64 margin with 20 gutter and 12 columns. That is something that is really standard. Maybe the most standard grid is something like this with 100 pixels margin, but this is really not the important part here. So we have maybe some navigation, and I will try to design a really low fidelity wireframe. I would like you to try to do the low fidelity wireframes in your notebook, because there you don't have to think about grid, you don't have to think about auto layout, you don't have to think about sizes. You can just sketch as many ideas as you can, and the best ones you can wireframe in Figma. But I will do a low fidelity wireframes here in Figma. So maybe we have logo here, we have, let's say, a button here, and we have some links. This is really the most standard thing that you will see in literally or on literally every website. Now we can go with some text. So let's say we have something like best local coffee shop in the town, let's say. And I would really like to use this font because it is a really great one. And I will bump it up to 64 pixels. What I like to do right now is to just stylize it a little bit. So you will probably get something that is like this. And what you can do is lower letter spacing because it looks more clean and more modern, and transform the line height in percents and really make it a bit smaller. That's it. So right now I will try to go for a grid perfect wireframe, but what can we do? We can use maybe some copy like this that says, let's put it at 16. That is the standard, or 16 or 18 pixels is the standard for body text on the website. So let's say we are, or let's say founded in 1958. This coffee shop is amongst the oldest ones in this city. We are nurturing the traditional way of making coffee, so you always feel like you are drinking it at home. This is really bad copy, that's why I use Claude. And let's set it to auto height. And for the body text, I would like to use some sans serif fonts, for example, Helvetica or maybe Instrument Sans, let's say. And for body text, you can go from 140 to 160, 70, 80, maybe, I don't know, depending on the font you're using. And now, this is great, maybe 18 pixels for the body text that is in hero section and 16 pixels for everything else. And I will really make it like this. Make it more transparent on 60% opacity, or maybe 70, 60, 65 maybe, yeah, 65, to really bring that hierarchy even more up. Other than that, we can have some buttons that are saying see our or explore our coffees, and I'll make it a button. Remember to always do everything in black and white and those shades of gray while wireframing. And I would just stylize this to be more appealing for the eye. I believe that this is it. Explore coffees, and let's say maybe find us or our location, our cafes, or maybe our shops, location, all locations, something like that. I got no idea if this is really correct in terms of grammar. Let's swap this for a stroke because we want this button to be a secondary button. And let's just make this more transparent as well. Again, hierarchy. So once we have these elements, let's say something like this, and maybe put everything here in an odd layout. Maybe I would like to go even lower on the letter spacing or tracking scale. We only need an image that I would like to be 6 columns wide. Why? Because I would like to see image first when I land on this website. That's it. So I'll just make it a little bit rounded because we have some rounded corners because of this font as well. And let's center it, something like this. This is 84, let's put it at 80. Let's follow that scale of 4 pixel grid for a 4 pixel system. And I would like to, yeah, something like this. So this is the first wireframe. And you always have to start with thinking, what exactly do I want to see first? The other way, or the other wireframe, let's name it coffee wireframe 1. The other layout that you can go for is something that is like this. Let's put everything in the middle. No, I really like to work with auto layout when I can. But if you don't like to work with auto layout, that's totally fine. And we can do something like this. Spacing, you don't have to care about the spacing as much right now, and this is not really a low fidelity wireframe, this is more medium to high fidelity. But this is the way I like to do a wireframe, and I really like to have everything set in place, OCD. But I believe that this is a really small picture. Nothing can really fit in here. What exactly can you fit in here? Maybe to put it like this, that's okay, maybe full width, okay. But what exactly will be here? Maybe a photo of this coffee shop. So this section will be much longer. It will not fit in a first view. What exactly would we like to, let's say -7, yeah, this is 80. What exactly would we see here? As I said, a photo of the cafe, of the coffee shop. So when you scroll, you can do some animation, maybe something like this. So as we scroll, maybe this image goes to full width. Maybe this is a video. So let's just pretend that by scrolling this section, we get to this. Let's say something like this. On scroll animation. Okay. So this is really a higher fidelity wireframe because I like to think of a purpose of each element. If we just put something like this here and we got no idea, like any idea of what can go here, that might be a problem. But if we think while working, that might be a really great setup for the design phase later, because as the more stuff we cover in wireframing phase, the less stuff we have to worry about in the design phase. Let's do something like this now. So we have title, body text, buttons, and we have an image. What is the next way to maybe present all of these elements? Full background image. And let's put it back. All of these things really need to go just maybe full white, yeah? And we can leave it like this. But mind that when you have a full background image, most of the time you will have all the important elements in most of the picture. So by putting this group here, we are probably covering something that is really important. So what can we do now? We can just put this whole group of elements down there. So it is not in a way of something that is more important. How do we know this is more important? Well, by having this large image or a video maybe, we are literally putting it at the top of the hierarchy list. So this is the first thing that we like to see. This is the second. There is one more way. So if you'd like to show even more of a video or a picture and to have this element even more down, let's say, we can do something like this. So we can do a layout that looks like this. Let's put it at 80. You see? I believe this font has some problems with line height, so I will just crop it. This is not a really good practice to do, but right now we have to because the font is bad. Oh, what's happening? 80 and 80. That's it. So right now we have 4 different wireframes. By just thinking, where exactly can I position my elements? At first, you might do something like this. So you might try to do something like this, but this is not really something that is great for the eye. Why? Well, because nothing is symmetrical. That is one of the web design principles. We don't have any balance. For example, if we put the rulers here and here in the center, we have this place that's empty. We have this that is, let's say, full. We have some elements here and we have some elements here. But our eye is really having a problem with connecting the dots. Our eye doesn't have any idea what goes with what. What are the groups and what are not the groups, what elements are together and what elements are separated. So that's why we always try to group everything that should be in the same group. No one says that you can't do something like this. So the reverse or the total opposite of what we did here, we can do something like this. Maybe we have the image that is not a full background image, but rather something like this. And the best way to practice layouts is to play around with elements, that's number one. But the thing number two is to go on great websites from Lapa Ninja, Landbook, Curated Design, SiteInspire, Godly.website, etc., etc. Don't go to Awards, don't go to Dribbble, because Awards is way above the level that you would like to be at first, because Awards has some layouts that you will not understand and you will try to recreate and you get no idea why exactly they created those layouts. But in all of those websites that I mentioned before, Awards and Dribbble, of course, you will find more standard layouts that you can practice. Once you get over that level, you can go on Awards. Dribbble is really bad because there are so many bad designs there and no one is approving those websites and you get no idea whether that website is good or not. So avoid Awards and Dribbble. Now we got 5 wireframes. What exactly can we do now? Now we can play around with text. So this really requires some more practice and I got no idea if this font is good for this, but let's say we got something like this. Best coffee shop in the town. And maybe we can go with something bold, but this looks really bad. Maybe something lighter, or maybe something that is regular. But this is still in a size that is in between the one we had here and the one that I would like to be. So maybe 400. No, I believe this is too much. 300. Best local coffee shop in town. I would like to be in 3 rows and to have something like this, and maybe to have this, let's say this text here or here, and then we can go with an image that will only show a small part of the full image, but this can maybe work. I don't like it, so yeah, I'm creating wireframes that are bad because I need to experiment. Maybe we can go with something like this. This is like a really funky way of designing, and maybe we can go with something that is more grid-like, let's say like this. So we are following the grid, but we are also trying to make things as balanced. Maybe here and maybe here. But this is still really bad for the eye because we got no idea where to go first, second, third. So I would like to avoid buttons being there. This is probably a bad idea. Maybe we can just make this grid more narrow. So for example, 200 and put it like this. Maybe like this. So yeah, let's create some different layouts. But I don't really think that this would work actually. But you save all versions. And I know for a fact that we would not really need anything more than these, but I'm just showing you how you can play around with typography, how you can play around with elements. Maybe something like this, and then we have something like this, and then we have a huge image here. You can play around. You never know what your client will actually like. Trust me on that. You never know. Maybe something like this can work. Maybe you design buttons in a different way. So we have some really great versions, maybe, and we have some really bad ones. And we have some really bad ones. Maybe we can go with something like this. So maybe we can put some images here. So this might be an image. This might be an image, maybe with a lot of spaces here. Like this. Like this. Try to match the spacings. See, the P is creating a really big problem. So instead of pushing it down, which will break the balance, maybe we can just put it above the P. And all of these things. And then to create some wireframes that are always connected to some other elements. This is aligned with this. These rectangles are aligned with grid. They don't have to be, but whole text is aligned to grid. Again, put it in new row. And you're just trying to find some things that might work. But other than this, you will not need anything else. Let's be honest, with this font, these are the wireframes that will most likely work the best. But what I wanted to show you here is that you can just pick the elements that you need for the section and just try to play around with it. That's it. Play around with elements and find a way that works. After you land all the ideas that you have, you can go on the websites that I just told you about and search for new inspiration. But in order to remove that blank canvas syndrome, as I like to call it, you will need to oil your engine in order for it to work on its own. You cannot always rely on your inspiration. You gotta have some of your own ideas. But trust me on one thing, you don't need funky layouts like these ones. I was just trying to play around and to show you that some other things that you don't see can work. But this is a really bad one. This is a really bad one. These can work, maybe with some different fonts, maybe with really specific imagery, but those can work. Maybe something like this to go out of bounds. This can work. Maybe something like this. So now this looks like a group. Maybe we put it down here. So you can just play around with elements, but most of the time, the best layouts are the most simple one or simplest ones. Don't overcomplicate it, but always try to create low fidelity, or in my case, high fidelity wireframes from your brain, your own ideas. After that, maybe you have only 2 examples to wireframes. You can go and search for other examples on great websites. It doesn't matter if you have as many ideas as I have or some other designers, but get as much as you can from your body, from your brain, get as many ideas as you can in that moment. With time, by practicing the layouts and wireframes, by having more inspiration. I mean, I didn't invent any of these. I was looking at better websites for years, and now I have some of these wireframes in the back of my head. You will achieve just that in some time in the future. But for now, try to get as much as you can from yourself right now. The next question that you'll need to answer is, what mood or feel does my client want from this project or website? Let's say something more luxurious, something more corporate, something more playful maybe, something more cozy. All those questions or answers to those questions will help you create clean mood board or visual direction. Once you have done a mood board, it should look something like this. So this is a Pinterest mood board that I created for a fictional project that I believe I didn't design. I was just creating a mood board for a video. This is a small mood board, only 29 pins. I recommend you start with 100 pins. It is really hard practice. It is really not easy to find 100 different pins that have the same feel and mood for the project, but that will help you to turn your brain on, to start the engine, and it is the same thing as creating dozens of layouts from your head without any inspiration. That practice has the same purpose as creating or having or finding 100 pins for your project. I have only 29 here, but I believe that here for this project, we had 123 pins. As you can see, we don't rely only on websites. Why? Well, because it will limit us. If you rely only on websites from Landbook, from Lapa Ninja, Curated Design, the most brutal and the best looking websites and the best structured websites, you will be limited if you only rely on those websites. If you only rely on finished products, you will limit yourself to those ideas. Designers that created all of those websites that you can find on Lapa Ninja, Landbook, etc., had already created some mood boards. So they had mood boards and then they created those websites. But if you only rely on their finished product, you're missing out on so many ideas. For example, you might not end up using any of these images, any of these fonts, any of these colors, but you will have some versions of these green colors, of these images, of these fonts. So you really need to have an idea and to get a sense of the feel that your client wants from that project. Look at mood boards like this. You have a feel that is put only into words. So you have something more luxurious, let's say something old money, etc. But you need to connect those words to the meaning of those words. You need to visualize all of those words. And the easiest way to visualize all of those words is to create a mood board. It is totally fine to go on Landbook, Lapa Ninja, Curated Design, Siteinspire, Godly Website, etc., even Awards, let's say, to find a solution for connecting the layouts that you have to these visuals, to connect all of those things, to see how other web designers connected great imagery, great fonts, for example, something like this, something like this. So all the fonts, all the typography parts that we have in our mood board, to connect that with the layout that we created, alongside imagery, textures, patterns, etc., whatever goes into one website. But if you only rely on finished products, you might have 2 or 3 images, you might have 1 font, 2 fonts maybe, some colors, but right here you can find as many images, as many different fonts, as many different textures, patterns, different combinations of those images and fonts, images and colors, etc. And you can find great layouts here that you can not only copy, but that will help you to get the sense of that website, of that feel, of that mood for the project that you're designing. Here we can find some great branding elements or branding presentations for, let's say, some AI, I would say, some AI or SaaS websites. And great thing about Pinterest is that once you find something that works for you, it will lead you to find even more inspiration. For example, something like this. So you might not end up using all of these images, all of these exact images. I mean, these are low quality images because they're on Pinterest, but you can find the idea of prompting your own. For example, you even have the prompt here, but you can use all of these images to add them to either ChatGPT, Higgsfield, Midjourney, any AI that will create great image, to use all of these images as a reference. And if you use this image for whatever project that this might be suited for, and add just enough space on the left and on the right of this subject, add some text maybe, and all elements that are going into, let's say, some hero section, you can have a great hero section. Maybe you can combine that image with maybe this grid type of element, this, let's say, pattern. Then you can see great layout here that is fully adjusted to grid. And whenever you see grid, that is really great thing. Why? Because our eyes like to follow the lines, and our eyes love to find patterns and to put things into groups. So when I see this, then I see this part, then I see this part, those 3 elements are all aligned. And maybe you will have to spend so much time on finding this exact layout or this exact design style on real websites, but you can easily find those elements on Instagram posts like this one. So you need to curate all kinds of inspiration for every web design project. Instagram posts, stories, photography, textures, patterns, images, colors, fonts, everything, billboards, maybe posters. You need to curate everything and to combine all of that into one seamless mood board. But I believe that I've talked enough. Let's create one mood board for our coffee shop. So let's say we are creating a mood board for a cozy coffee shop. First and most obvious thing that I can search for is a coffee shop. So as I said, we would like to have a coffee shop that is really cozy, but that can go in many different ways. Fonts can be different, images can be different, but all in all, if you find yourself going in so many different directions, simply create more mood boards. And then, once you go into Figma, have a section, so this, create a section, and this can be your mood board 1, mood board 2, mood board 3. And you can present all of those mood boards to your client. Most of the times you won't have 3 mood boards. You will have 2 mood boards max, but if you end up having 3 mood boards, that is totally fine, as long as they're totally different. I mean, they don't have to be totally different on the opposite spectrum of everything that there is, but it really should be visible that it is different enough for them to be called different mood boards. So the first thing that I would do to create this mood board is search for coffee shops, and I would pin literally everything that will go into one website. As I said millions of times, images, colors, typography, great Instagram posts, maybe some snapshots like this. So everything that will help me in creating one visual identity. When you have great visual identity, you won't have any problems in creating any section. And the only thing left for you to do, besides creating a mood board, is to create those layouts and connect the visual identity into one seamless, clean, and unique website. So let's pin some of these images. I really like this image, so I will go and create mood board, and let's say Cozy Cafe. I believe that I'm spelling this right, coffee shop, cozy coffee shop, and I will pin literally everything. Do I like this font? Maybe not so much, but I like the images, so why not? And I literally like every image that there is, because all of these images are really similar in style. For example, this I don't really like because of the blue. You can of course incorporate this into this kind of branding, but I would try to stick to as many similar things as I can. This is great. Maybe this can be some scrolling section. Once you scroll, you have that nice parallax effect, but I will always try to think about the project and what this can mean for a web design, for layouts, for sections, because when you think while curating all of these pins, you will make your design phase much easier. So I believe that this looks like AI, which I don't really like. You can pin some images, some colors, of course. If this works, you can save it. Maybe you won't end up using it. So this pin I really like, but because of the font, I don't think that we will be using it. And because of that blur, I don't really think that it will help us so much. This, for example, is not our style, but this is our style. We saved it. This is our style, of course. And I believe that we are going in a direction where we'll probably be using this kind of font for our headings. I believe that these fonts won't really work for any body text. So for the body text, we will need something that is really a classic sans serif font. And this is great. This is, really popular way of creating stories for Instagram or any ads, let's say. This is great, but I really think that we can use this anywhere. If it will give you some ideas for some sections, you can paint it, of course. This is great. I really love this. So this font can be used only for this section. That will be totally fine, because this is more some kind of a graphic than a standard section. So it will be totally okay to use that font only for that sticky note or whatever that is. And once you find some ideas of what images, what whole mood and feel you would like to go for your website, just open those pins and see where Pinterest leads you. Whenever you find something that you like, Pinterest will literally give you the same ideas, like tons of other ideas within the same mood spectrum. So yeah, I believe that you get what I was trying to go for. But the next thing that I would like to do is to go for some words that are not as obvious. So, I mean, cozy coffee shop is something that is obvious that we didn't cover. So let's say cozy coffee shop, something like this. And then you can start searching for cozy coffee shop, maybe branding. And here, as you can see, you can find so many great fonts, great illustrations. So this is great, let's say, even though you probably need an illustrator for this one or graphic designer to create those illustrations, but that's okay. This is great, but these colors will usually go with fonts that are more bubbly, more playful, which we don't want. We would like to go for something like this. So yeah, this font here, as you can see, would probably be great for either headings, but 100% great for body text. If we use this font or this kind of font for headings, this will be great for body texts. Maybe we can have some snapshots of, or some images of coffee itself, of coffee beans. Maybe we can search for, let's say, coffee branding mockup, let's say, to present the coffee in some unique way, something like this. Or maybe for that section, that shop section that I mentioned in the first half, in the first part of this video, something like this maybe. Cozy coffee branding mockup. So these sentences that I am searching for don't really have to make sense grammatically or grammarly, but you just put all of those words that you can think of when you think about this brand. And as you can see, we have a lot of great pins, but I'm just trying to find something that really works for us. And the way someone is holding the cup, the way the background is presented, the way, let's say, yeah, someone is holding these coffee beans, the way these bags of coffee beans are presented, all of those things are making a mood and feel for a project. So once you start thinking about whether this man is so serious or he's not, and whether you need that mood or something more cozy, more relaxed, more playful, you will enter that high level or senior level thinking and creating mood board and designing projects. As you can see, all of these images are really relaxed, really cozy, but something like this is not. So try to think about what mood is the actual image giving you. For example, something like this POV, I mean, this is not really a POV shot, but this wide angle fisheye shot is something that is not so cozy. Something like this is cozy, but this red color is not giving really cozy vibes, because red is usually a sign or a symbol for attention and danger. Here we got almost the same font, but with a different color. So these combinations of the imagery and the fonts and the colors is what we are looking for. And especially when you're not creating something that is SaaS website, AI website, you will 100% need to create a great mood board. Other than this, you might search for coffee shop branding, or you can go for coffee beans or cappuccino, or maybe cozy branding without any coffee words. But as you can see, when I search cozy, the coffee shops are there no matter what, etc, etc. So yeah, maybe typography, cozy typography. Then you can search cozy typography web design. So I'm just giving you all the ideas that you can think of and that you should be thinking about. Cozy typography web design, coffee shop web design. Okay, we got some really nice sections here. For example, this one, this one, this one. So there are a lot of ways that you can go with here. This pin is really great. This this website, even though it ended up in our search bar, this is not something that we would like to go for. A lot of these straight lines, grids without any cozy imagery is not something that I would personally go for when creating a cozy coffee shop website, but I would rather go for a lot of background images, full background images with minimalistically or minimally designed fonts. For example, something like this. So let me show you when we go to boards, cozy coffee shops. So we already have 29 pins, and let's use something that is great. Let's place it in our background. We will probably have some, let's say, some logo or some navbar here, and we will probably end up with this style. Let's go for 100 as we originally went for, but I would like to go with something a bit narrower to make enough room for the image to breathe. And I would personally go into Photoshop and extend this image so the subject is on the furthest right side and the typography is on the furthest left. And because this is really bad contrast, we can add a gradient to help with the actual contrast. Maybe something like this, and let's put a 0 here, and let's crank it up. Maybe not this much. We could maybe go with something like this, or maybe even something like this. Yeah, and yeah, we have a great hero section, great first version of the hero section, and you should really be combining all these images that we have in our mood board, or these kinds of images. So you can probably find better quality images on stock websites that have better quality, but you can combine all of these versions with different layouts. For example, something like this. Oh, something like this. Yeah. And you should really zoom in to this subject because he's too far away to have really nice crop and really nice shot of our subject. And we can have a great background with some, yeah, let's say something like this that will look cozy, maybe to go for something that is really brown. But I believe that right now, for my taste, this background is really bland and really boring. So what I would like to do is to search for some kind of pattern to add to the background, or maybe some gradients, some subtle gradients. What I like to do is to have same colors and then to maybe just bump up the first one just a little bit, something like this, and to try to create some different versions. And I would of course change maybe the color of the title, maybe the color of the main button, etc, etc. But this is the way you create so many different versions, and you can choose now different images, different fonts, different layouts, and when you combine all of those ideas, you will get like 10, 15 or 20 versions only of hero section alone. And imagine how many versions you will have from literally every single section in the website. You will probably end up with at least 40 or 50 different sections just by changing 2 or 3 images, maybe some fonts and some layouts. That's it. And that is exactly how you get out of that blank canvas syndrome. So in this video, we covered creating layouts and creating a visual identity or visual direction for your project. With only those 2 things that you should really master if you like to work with high-tech clients, you should be able to elevate your work by at least 5x. And as I said in the first part of this video, if you'd like to work with me for 3 months and to get to those senior level projects, to work with high-ticket clients and to have no doubt in your web design process, to have no creative blocks, there is a link in the description, first link in the description, that you can check out for my program Future Proof Web Designer. Other than that, I recommend you watch this video next, and I'll see you in the next one.